Surfaces has joined.
Yeah, we couldn't hear each other. I think we had a kind of
Parallel universe moment.
yeah, just we have to have that. I think once every season. So I had just narrated the first trigger,
Okay.
which was based on Sam's position, the position that he had introduced yesterday, which is the relationship between the surrogate and our idea of who we might be. So the trigger, I'll just repeat the description. If the currentness of our act is who we happen to be, then who does our memory belong to? So if each past experience is becoming a surrogate in that sense,
Yeah.
then our past in that sense doesn't belong to us.
But we are talking about currentness, so where does past come from?
So I mean the memory. So in the sense our construct of ourself involves time, right? So in that's within the flatness of the construct of ourselves, we
Mhm.
can we have this notion of having been around and having experienced other things and having prior knowledge of the scene.
Okay, somehow I had this feeling from yesterday that, and also when, from what I had heard from Sam, that being in the present moment actually means that nothing else exists. The actor on stage is only the act and nothing else exists. So there isn't a memory. The actor is carrying the memories, but I mean, somehow currentness for me contains the memories, but yet is a flat surface.
Right. I mean, we have in the past spoken. I mean, I think in previous study groups, we have spoken of uh, currentness as something which is very minute, which is very narrow, and which is very micro, and which is sharp. But I mean, recently I've been thinking that the past and the future both can be thought of as belonging to this moment as well. So in that sense, the duration of the moment actually it it might not be we might not be able to define that so easily. In the sense, uh,
Right.
my experience of a moment might be forever, might last forever. I mean, it might last a very long time at least, right? So,
Right. Somehow I'm stuck with this image of a flat surface performing for an audience, and that flat surface is not allowed to have a depth because it has been scripted and it has a very linear narrative. It has
yeah.
been.
So, I mean, I agree with that. So, let's say let's not imagine a depth. Let's stay with the flatness of the of the current the way you're describing it. But let's say the time past and the time that has yet to come, they're casting a shadow on this flat surface. So even if we are entirely, I mean, we actually, are even what we associate and know as being in the here and now is not as sharp and isolated from the time past and the time that has yet to come, they cast a shadow at least, if not, and in that shadow, for example, memory resides, and in the shadow of the future, potential resides, and
Right. Even if we are a character in a script, there it does have a history and it does have a future, that character.
yeah, and to deny that might be, jumping to a conclusion very fast. That is, you know, fixing the notion of the duration of the moment. I think we should maybe leave that a bit loose.
Okay.
So does it
Only
apply to the memory as well? Are you trying to say that the memory you're referring to is both the enacted memory as well as the actor's memory?
uh, let's say we only talk about of one of these, which is the enacted memory. Let's say the actor does not have any insight. I mean, that's what we were. Uh, that's where we started from. One of the positions where we started from yesterday, and let's say we don't need to deviate from there. But uh, even the enacted memory. So. Uh, what allows me to continue the act that I have initiated with you, for example, has something to do with the enacted memory, knowledge of the enacted memory, and remaining in a way faithful to that.
So there is an assumption of a script.
Yeah, I mean, the script is unavoidable.
Right.
Seemingly to me, I mean, it's like I don't know if we can shake it off.
Right.
What happens if you enact the script again and again many times? I mean, like if we talk of a routine, yesterday we were talking of a kind of a behavioral routine and something that we otherwise fall back onto. So there is a routine that we follow in a social context, as opposed to something when we are on our own. So in this, if you take that routine to an everyday routine to be an enacted pace, and when that's repeated, doesn't that accumulate a set of memories as well, and of enacted memories? So every time while acting, you also know that you have done the same thing before and you're doing it again, and it's not really the same.
Right. I mean, actually, the nature of the, I mean, I think what you're talking about is the loop, right? I mean, the what happens when acts loop, and what happens when you are enacting not just once but many times the given routine, right? I mean, that's what you're.
Yes.
Yeah. So in a the nature of the loop actually might be just another, I mean, expansive thing that we could get into. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's a deviation. I'm saying that it's a very welcome potential that we can explore here, because the loop has this way of has this form which, I mean, after you have looped a certain number of times, you don't really know the beginnings and ends
Yeah,
very
precisely.
clearly, in the
Yeah,
sense any point in the loop can be seen as a looping point,
yeah,
as a beginning end point.
yeah.
And what you were mentioning is also the accumulation of the layers of these loops, and how that affects how that adds another dimension of memory to the actors. I mean, that
Or a loss of memory, because if you're in the loop, you can just follow the routine. You don't even need to have memory.
how's that?
The actor is only following the script, is not even aware of this. It's like motor memory. I mean, I don't even have to put an effort anymore. Motor memory just takes over. So there is no memory here, and it's just a flow. Like, I'm just doing without even thinking.
Right. But what is this? What is this motor memory for the actor?
So we talked about a loop where we are talking about repetition,
Yeah.
right? Repetition after a while, if there is no change of any kind, and you just do it automatically.
That
Right. But I'm
assumption
saying
that
that
no change is I don't know. It's very hard to not have change.
Right.
I mean,
I
at least
want
in
to
the
go there.
script,
Yeah,
at
that's
least in
true.
the script. Satya, are you referring to the consistent nature of the script or the consistent nature of the enactment?
No, of the script.
Yeah, yeah. So Malvika, in the script, we can imagine that it remains static, right? I mean, that's a loop. Like when you loop a song, for example, it's a loop only if the song remains the same. Otherwise, it's a playlist.
Correct.
No, no, no,
If
no.
it's
Please,
different
I'm not.
versions,
You take it away from. See, we're talking of memory in terms of an enactment and an actor. So I am not taking it into a mechanical sense at all. I'm only interested in the moment from a human perspective.
And are
okay.
you
I
saying
mean,
that sorry, are you saying that every time the actor acts, the script is the same, but the actor's act is different every time? There's
Yes,
some memory that
yes,
adds on to it.
yes.
Right.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And if that is the
right.
case,
Uh,
then I don't know how we're going to look at this aspect of memory.
No, but then that's the memory, right? Every time you have a memory of the previous act and you know that something has to be tweaked, so there is a change in the act the next time.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't really know if this is so much of a memory factor, as something else. Like, if you, for example, if you just take how we live, for example, yeah, how we live a life, uh, and things might seem to be happening in the same way over and over again, and that only gives us a sense of familiarity towards a discomfort, in the sense, that we know that how this is going to pan out, but
Right.
we also know that we have to do what we have to do. I mean, there is
So,
a
so then what is the memory here?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So, is it so much of a memory? Is the repetition of the loop so much? Is it so much about the memory, or is it something else?
But I thought you were trying to place memory.
Right.
No, but yeah, but not the memory of the loop that. I mean, I had not factored that in actually. You, I think, suggested this,
Hmm.
and I mean, I'm basically, yeah, I'm saying that I'm not sure if the recurrence, if the loop, if the happening again and again of the enactment is adding another layer of memory, or it's adding something else. which is
It does add a layer of memory because, I mean, there is something to take forward. If you're playing the same song again and again, or if you're performing the same act again and again, there is something that you're learning from the past, even in your routine of the life. And we do the same thing again and again, but like Einstein said, if we, it's like, you realize that something can be changed and that will make things better. So you try to do something different the next time. So there is that factor of memory, and therefore to reduce your own discomfort.
right. I mean, I'm basically I'm running with this. I don't know where we'll end up, but I'm saying that let's say we like when you repeat a song, when you loop a song, which you, the example that you just mentioned, then you can actually forget the song, right? So when a song has looped, for example, for 50 odd times, I mean, when you leave it looping all night, then
Right. So,
you can lose sense of the repetition of the repeated sounds being a song.
so now the memory is of the viewer then, of the listener.
Yeah. So uh, yeah, the loops accumulate in the audience, in the listener, in the viewer. Uh, but I'm not sure if uh, uh, I would think the contrary, that the more the more it loops, the more we lose the sense
Yeah.
of coherence that we have on the narrative. And
It's true. That is true. Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah.
Or you could, it's like Groundhog Day. You are aware that it's happening, and it's the same thing again and again. You're trying to break out of it.
yeah, and that's the kind of dream that we are you know logged in the sense we don't really know if we are ever going to be able to wake up. So, Sam, do you have anything to add to this? Because we are basically building up on what you brought in yesterday.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll just quickly recap. So, what you were talking about yesterday between the relationship between the surrogate surface and the sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
If we just take that, so if the currentness of our act is who we happen to be, then who does our memory belong to? So just before we shift to the next trigger, if you just want to add something, who does our memory belong to then? If we don't, if you know, did you get it? I mean,
Okay. Yeah, I get it. But who does this self belong to?
who does the self belong to? Yeah, is that what you said?
Yeah. I mean, if you're asking who does the memory belong to, I'm asking
Yeah.
who does the self belong to?
No, so does the memory belong to the self?
No, I'm saying the self is the self itself belongs to someone else.
Or whom does the self belong to?
Uh,
Who is the someone else?
no, it's the same person. So if you look at that as a third entity, um, that at that particular point in time and space becomes the self of that personality,
Right.
and at a different point in time, with a different set of values and a different set of moral code, and that becomes the surrogate surface as well.
Right. So the whom does the self belong to in what you just said?
I don't know if then you have to name the third entity. No, I'm just thinking of self and the surrogate surface. The self is also a surface then.
The
I
self
think,
is
Sam, what you said yesterday, how I understood is when the act is happening, the actor is the self.
Right, when the act is happening, if the actor doesn't know or if she is fully conscious that this act is happening, then
Yeah,
that self becomes the actor.
right.
Right, so if the actor is that conscious of this particular act of the self, then the actor would be conscious of the surrogate surface also. Right?
so the surrogate surface belongs to the self. Is that what you're saying?
No, the surrogate surface belongs to the conscious actor.
But whom do the memories belong to then?
Memories are surrogate surfaces, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. I think I
Okay, so
answered.
you are saying the memories belong to the actor, and
Right,
the sense of self is the experience of the actor.
right.
So, okay. So then we move to the second trigger.
Okay.
Uh, is our if, is our personal act separate from the collective enactment,
Nice.
or and do we care more for it?
For what?
Do we
For a
care
person.
more? Yeah. Should I repeat?
Do we care more for what? I didn't understand.
Yeah. So is our personal act
Yeah.
separate from the collective enactment?
Hmm.
And if so, do we care more for it? So do we care more for our personal acts than we do for the collective enactment?
I see.
The easy answer is yes. We do care more for the personal enactment.
But we are not going to be able to act. For example, I mean, our act is going to break if the
Mhm.
collective enactment breaks.
I think what determines what would be a interesting question. Like the
Right.
personal act determines the collective enactment, or we put up this personal act because of the pressure from the collective enactment.
It's the same case of the guest and host that we were discussing yesterday, and they are interchangeable, I think.
No, the guest and host were in the perspective of the actor.
Actor, correct.
But I'm saying it can be applied here as well. So the personal act and the collective enactment
Mm-hmm.
uh, are in many ways at the guest and host. So sometimes the personal act is determined by the collective enactment, and at other times the collective enactment is determined by the personal act. I would say
No, but what are we more attached to? What do we care more about? Is
The personal
actually
act.
it's a that's a strategic question, because if we care more for the personal act,
I mean, why would we care for the
then
collective act?
like
Why would we care for the collective act? What does it
because
do for
our
us?
personal act is dependent on it at some level.
No. Uh, okay, yeah.
No, not
at a
But
very
dependent,
basic
but
level. I
then
mean, at every
no, it
level,
is no, it's not. It is determined
it
maybe,
cannot exist
it's
in
not
isolation.
dependent.
but it doesn't matter what the we cannot. We know that we cannot control the collective. What we can only control is ourselves.
So why can't it happen in?
Inder, you saying something? Okay, yeah. Sorry, Sam. Yeah, continue.
Nothing. If we look at personal enactments as discrete instances, and the
Huh.
collection or the summation of these discrete instances would be the collective enactment, right? So the personal act is not dependent on the collective enactment, it's just the summation.
But doesn't the
Summation. How is that? No, What were you saying, Satya? Sorry for
Oh,
interrupting.
no, I forgot, sorry.
No, but Sam, how is the personal act a summation of
No,
the
no, no,
collective
no. The
act?
no, 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 no. The collective act. I'm not sure if it's summation or if it's. I'm not sure if it's the and or the or. You know, the logical and or. Or is
Hmm.
summation and is a multiplication. So the collective enactment is, if you look at the logical thing, then it's an and, which is multiplication mathematically. But if you look at it on the other side, which is just a summation of all the personal enactments that every individual puts up, right, in that particular confined space, I guess. No, all I'm trying to say is personal enactment is not dependent on the collective enactment, but the personal act could be influenced by the collective enactment.
Yeah.
No, it could be
Malika?
influenced, but the Malika, can you
Yes,
just
yes. I listened to that. I am kind of thinking about it that it's not dependent but can be influenced.
matlab, I don't really know if the collective is literally a collective of all the individual acts. It's not maybe it's not a subset and a set kind of thing, because the environment,
Mm-hmm.
even without the actors, has some qualities, right? So even if the collective act would at some level be continuous even if the actors are absent.
So you are including the environment within the
Right.
collection, which is I was more considering that the actors coming together. Do you remember that cartoon called Swim Me? Does anyone
No.
remember it?
Swimmy.
Swim Me, Films Division, long time ago. There were all these little fishes. They form a big fish.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking of collective act as.
Right.
But
No,
there can't be a collective act without an actor.
Sorry?
I'm saying that can't be a collective enactment without an actor.
Yeah.
no, there can be, because let's say what is where are the actors standing? They're standing on something that we can think of as a stage, something, whatever. I'm not talking of the formal stage, but some stage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a backdrop, has a foreground, has a background. So it is a landscape. It is an environment.
Yeah, then that landscape becomes an actor, right?
No, but does it? Or
I
Why
mean, it
does
can
it?
I
influence the
mean,
act. I mean, I can feel inspired in some venues more than I feel inspired in other venues. So I can see how the environment can influence.
No,
And
I'm considering the environment also as an actor.
I could see that. I
I
could
mean,
see it also as an actor.
Yeah, that's what
but
I understand as a collective enactment.
Okay, let's assume that it's an actor in the collective.
uh, I mean, but it is more it has ambient qualities which I would not be able to, you know, uh, associate with qualities of an actor. Like, an actor is individual
Not
and
necessarily, right? I mean,
not
for example, I'm sorry, if I feel like this actor whom I'm acting with, I find that person to be a warm, inviting presence. So I'm feeling a presence of the other actor. And that could be even the ambience. There is a warm, inviting ambience in this place, which I'm sensing as a presence.
right.
So in that sense, the environment is also an actor.
Okay, right. So then where does
But we
that?
have to define what are the parameters that constitute an actor.
Which is, I mean, I feel like we cannot even define another individual. An actor is a collection of attributes.
Yeah, we can't define, but we judge them.
Fine, but what I'm saying is if you consider the environment also as a collection of attributes,
Uh-huh.
that way it is also an actor. And where does that take us was what Prayas you asked. And I was thinking that if we take that as the collective enactment and now we look at the individual actor, then is the act separate? That's the question.
That's a nice question.
Right. So what is that? Uh,
What's the act?
what's the act?
What's the act?
No, what did you
Uh,
say, Satya?
Sorry,
no,
could you repeat that?
Sam, yeah.
Satya, can you repeat the question that you asked?
So I just extrapolated what we just said into the question that Prayas had for trigger 2. In
Okay.
that, is our personal act separate from the collective enactment? If we are taking collective enactment to include the environment also,
Mhm.
then what is, are we separate?
So you're separating the self again from the enactment.
Right. That's how I would see it, yeah.
Like
So,
if you
but
talk about self, the enactment within the enactment, and that's the point of that the self and the enactment merge.
The self and enactment merge. Yeah, correct.
So we are. I thought that's what we ended with yesterday, and we kind of started with that again today. So
Right.
if we are so why would you again? If
separate
that's the
them.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
established.
but
I will again separate.
that's a
Correct.
collective enactment, right? Like there's more
Yeah.
than one actor now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the collective enactment and the personal enactment
Right.
are definitely, I mean, can be thought of as separate entities. I mean, at this point, it's a question, but I mean, we can model them as separate entities because yeah, we were talking about a personal scale yesterday, and we have zoomed out.
Don't they meet at the point of the enactment?
What Sam was describing yesterday was the point of meeting in the personal act.
No, I'm saying, uh, so we've already established that the a point of enactment and the self happen at the same time, and
Right.
when that is, uh, happening, and if you're now bringing in a collective enactment, I would see it as one encounter with another. It's again an enactment. So at the point of enactment for me is a merging of all the, whether it is the collective or the self or the personal or.
But isn't there a distinction between two actors interacting with each other versus all of these actors interacting together, and that the envelope of that?
It depends
That's
on whether you are defining acting as an active articulation. I mean, listening is also acting. Receiving is also an enactment to that extent.
I don't know if I would take listening as an act. I feel that's more passive.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, you could say that you can act like you're listening, but how would you listen as an act?
unless that's built into the script.
Yeah, I mean, but exactly, and in the if you're enacting the script, you would act like you're listening still.
Precisely, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing but a sensory. You're not shutting off your senses.
But one is a deliberate acting out, whereas the other one is one is deliberately sending signals, the other one is in a receiving mode where signals are just coming
I
into
mean,
play.
yeah, Malvika, I think what you're talking about is an act of listening, which involves an insight. That I think when we start thinking of actors as persons,
Yeah.
as people, then we are assuming that they have a insight, and for the purposes of this discussion, we are talking of actors as entities who don't have an insight. I mean, I'm just
Precisely.
saying.
So if you're talking of collective enactment as and drawing parallels with an environment, so now an environment does not necessarily have to be insightful and active in perceiving, receiving, listening, whatever.
Actually,
And
that's a very good point because then the audience also becomes the environment and the
yes,
listener becomes an actor in that sense. Yeah,
you
that's right.
can't ensure that deliberate receiving from the environment, but you never know what is being received.
So that is where the construction is being held in that sense. What you're saying is
Yes.
so in the memory of the viewer, in the memories, let's say what all I've managed to hold on to, so which is by listening to it, right? Uh, that's the whole construction depends on it. The enactment depends on the memory of the audience because that's where it is. That's what is holding it together.
I don't know if I would call that a memory, but the presence of the environment is what is holding it together. Because an act in absolute vacuum is of no consequence in my opinion. I mean, we we wouldn't be you can't go any
I
further.
mean, yeah, consequence is a whole different parameter. I mean, what we have, what we know, so it would not be an act so much, right? In the sense,
Exactly, that's what I say. Yeah.
yeah. So it's if I'm doing something in a room where in an empty room, and I do something else, if I do random things which are unconnected,
Mm,
then I can actually get away with it
mm,
without any. I don't need to stick to the script.
yes.
Hmm. So we jump to the third trigger for the day, which is actually which is yeah, 4 words. Uh, what limits an actor?
Nothing.
Everything.
Memories of limits. It's too much consciousness that limits an actor.
If the theater is on fire, the actor will be limited.
No, I think internally, I mean, not the, we are not talking about the external circumstances.
No, but we are talking about environment and collective, so that will play now.
That also, okay.
Yeah, the act will break if the stage is on fire.
But what if that's part of the act?
Well, it will. It's not a limit. It is still a stimulus to act upon that moment.
Right,
Yeah.
and until the final break happens.
Right. You see, it's again consciousness, right? If cricketers are too conscious that they could die out of a fucking short ball, then they won't go out and play, right? But the
Yeah, no, so I will elaborate the question a little bit. So, uh, so can an actor act as anything? Can I act anything out, or there are limits to what I can enact because of something that has to do something with who I am?
yeah. And that's, I mean, again, I would say the same thing. It's the conscious memory of the self that could limit an actor, and that conscious memory could come from your knowledge, could come from societal barricades, it could come from your value system, it could come from your nature, it could come from your nurture. So if you're too conscious about the memory of yourself, then that limits an actor. That's what I think.
Right. So, I mean, conscious. Let's say. So, what is the conscious actor? I mean, where does consciousness actually come in the whole enactment process, right? I mean, I would assume that you're actually forgetting all of what you're saying that the actor will be conscious about. So the degrees of consciousness would actually be inversely related, or inversely or directly related to the degrees of ability to of forgetting.
But I mean, we can also look at it this way, like completely enlightened yogis, they don't
Absolutely.
do anything, they don't act, right? They don't put on an act. But the flip side is that if they think that minimalist act is the ultimate act,
Okay.
uh,
I mean, who is the enlightened actor? I mean,
See, I could also say that an enlightened actor is one who is so well aware of what is going on that they are not, it doesn't even affect them. So like Sam, you said about the cricketer going out, and if you're conscious of what you're doing, it doesn't work. But I can turn it around saying that when I'm in a state of flow, I am so hyper conscious that
right?
doesn't affect me.
That's true. I mean, like I said, so we can look at it two ways, right? Like either you're too conscious that you're afraid to put on an act, or you're too conscious that you don't put on an act, but you're very aware that you're not putting on an act. You're just being yourself, and that becomes the ultimate act. So you don't really know if the actor is completely conscious of the ultimate act that he or she is not putting on an act, or if the actor is conscious to an extent that he or she is afraid to put on an act.
Mm.
yeah, but Sam, I'm not sure if we can qualify
Hello, Sarpusha?
Okay.
Right?
I don't know, maybe to the question, what limits an actor?
So Malvika, you tell us. So what do you think of this? She just muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Yeah, no, so I was just commenting on, uh, you know, uh, can we qualify acts with being ultimate or being ordinary in that sense?
Can we qualify? I mean,
Because if we get into that discussion, then
right.
it will be a very like we don't know who can certify an act
Exactly.
to be
Yeah.
ordinary, and that will just go into a something that's dependent on third party kind of validation.
Right. It's very subjective.
But if you go back to the question of what limits the actor, from what I heard from Sam, is consciousness could limit an actor.
Consciousness could limit an actor, but at the same time, consciousness, like complete, I don't know, consciousness and enlightenment, let's call it that way. Consciousness could limit an actor, and enlightenment could an actor to not to put on an act.
That's a limit, actually.
That's a limit. No, when I say not to put on an act, it's
No, I understand. I'm just sort of spinning the word. Sorry, Prayas, you're cutting out again.
Enlightenment just a specific kind of act?
I don't know which comes first. Okay, so I don't know if this specific kind of act brings enlightenment or enlightenment brings this act.
No, because I mean I'm just being very cautious here in going into this vocabulary set
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
of
I get it.
enlightenment
Enlightenment. Yeah,
and ultimate acts, because that takes us into a zone which is
very
you know
subjective. Hmm.
subjective, or based on special experience that we cannot open up to general experience easily, right? I mean, so
Right,
that's
right.
a matter of privilege. If you have experienced it, you have. If you haven't, you haven't.
Okay, then let's go back to the question. So, what limits an actor?
Yeah.
Yeah, even I don't see how
Hello.
enlightenment can fit into uh, this context of an act, because enlightenment, the way I understand it, is something you acquire. It's not an act. It's not something actively deliberated.
Right, right. I mean, there's no act, which means you're true to yourself. You know, the self.
If there's no act, the act is limited, right?
uh, I mean, if you look at act as a negative thing, then limiting it is the best thing to do, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
But we are not looking at an act as a negative thing. I think we are looking at at an act as the only thing.
Okay.
I mean, in the sense that all we are doing is acting,
Correct.
and that is the ordinary state of affairs.
Right. Shakespeare.
Uh, yes.
Haji,
May I add something here?
Yes.
yeah, please.
Uh, I think it will be little confusing. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
very clearly.
Because I think the life in general has something for everybody to act out. To carry out the day, and everybody works out with their memories, with their skills, with their whatever they inherit from their past, and how their presentness is worked out for their livelihood. Okay, so in that sense, everybody is an actor. But I think a departure takes place the moment we start thinking of acting as a discipline. That will be easier to handle if I'm correctly understanding it. Because if everything is act, then we may talk about an engineer on the road or a cobbler on the road. We are only, I think, talking about the actor on the stage, or who has a script, or who is improvising or interacting with the audience and gelling the role with the self and bringing out something new, right? Or making an act imperfect or perfect or whatever. But I think the act, right, the actor on the stage uh, has something to offer in terms of his or her experience, where from they come. So the actor is limited in that sense, but I think he is less limited than what the person on the ground is doing with his or her acting to make his a livelihood out of his skills. Because the actor on the stage is can fearlessly improvise and go anywhere, start being creative, and start
But
making
sir,
masks. Start working with masks. So the limitation on the ground, for example, a worker is working at a particular site, and he or he has particular skill to make a chair from his memory. So he has a limited access to improvise
but
because
sir, there's
because because
no.
yeah, because but the actor on the stage can go anywhere if the director or allows him or her to do what they want to do.
No,
So
but in there we are looking at the we are looking at our environment in a way that there is no possibility of being authentic, right? So there is no possibility of being who you are. So in that sense, everything is an act.
what is
Yeah,
missing?
basically there's no stage
Yes,
there.
what is
So
this everything? Prayas, I am only interested in what is this everything which you are saying.
I mean, each state of being, each
Where,
relation.
where, where? I mean, you are on the table working. Worker is on somewhere on the roadside. Where? Everything is what? How do you define
So,
everything?
so our sense of self, our sense, our psyche in that sense, are
No,
the
are you? No,
who we think of as ourselves.
no. I'm saying that are you representational in this right now? For example, the person who is working somewhere, a farmer, let us say on the ground, who has a particular skills from his ancestors to make some vegetable, right?
Right.
So are we talking on his behalf here?
No, so I would say that the farmer's impression that or the farmer's experience that the farmer can only be a farmer because of his lineage or history,
Hmm.
that is based on a set of beliefs, and that is an act in that sense. So,
That's
uh,
difficult for you to
We have
say.
already said, we have already, I think I am already convinced on one thing, that everybody is carrying out an act.
yeah,
Even a beggar is doing it on the outside the temple or anywhere, right?
right.
A Pandit or Molana, everybody is putting up a kind of a mask to work out a livelihood. It's very simple. The politicians do, everybody
Yeah,
does,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. But that's very
Right?
simple. Yeah,
I am thinking about, let us say an actor is an artist. Let us say when a poet writes a poem, so the poem is very closely gelled with the self of the person, and we are being taken to a different kind of a depth. Where when you are talking about the reflections take place there endlessly, and we are mesmerized, or we are taken away into different kind of a zone of time and space, which actually does not happen on the ground, right? but
yeah,
but the paradox is, since the differences between the art and the life have collapsed at many various levels, so we are going back to a simple living, let us say a garbage collector on the railway track. So the kind of life which he is going through is amazing and is giving us an endless horizon of possibilities, and the anecdotes which the person can give us. It's quite a rich life out there. So we really don't know what is the script there, because the script is constantly improvising. So it's not a question of being limited, or it's not a question of being who is judging whom, or what is authentic thing. For me, if we make it a little bit simplified, because if we are talking about the entire life, what we are doing, everybody doing something in their own spaces, I think it will be interesting if we little focus on the acting part of it. How we actually look at the discipline. How we are doing it in, let us say, in schools where we act, and what are the limitations there. Let us say I think of Rajesh Khanna, for example. Rajesh Khanna was a very successful actor, but I think, from a distance judging him, he had a failure in his life. So his successes in his career didn't work out well when he was working with his spouse or his children. He failed but it's again a judgment from a distance. So the limitations of actor don't help the person to overcome the problems which one faces in the life. But at the same time, what he provided to the society or on the screen, what kind of new flowers he created on the water in terms of a projection on the screen in cinema halls. He was a wonderful actor. He gave smiles to everybody. So I really don't know. Again, the director-actor split here, and then of course the question of performance art comes where there is no script actually. So for me, these are crisscrossing from acting to life forces, and then uh, how to balance the whole
Yeah,
gate.
so I mean, I would think that the artist, if you want to talk about the artist or the actor on the screen or actor on the stage, they're all kinds of acts, right? So in the sense, why would one prefer to identify as an actor rather than as an artist? Because if you're an actor, you can always act like you're an artist. Like so an art being an artist is only a specific kind of act. So the
Okay.
the only skill involved in actually producing experience is acting, and then you can potentially apply that skill to anything that you want, any role that you want to assume.
But I think what I'm trying to say is, if he's speaking of acting as a discipline, and I do agree with his point of view and what he said, because uh, how do you make another person, a person who is not an actor on the screen, or anybody else, aware of that potential of the act? I don't know. So we are having this discussion here about what an act can be, or how you may determine or define it. But in all pragmatic, at all pragmatic levels, the awareness of act is happening only by performers.
Right, because generally in common cultural exchange or whatever, the sense that we are really distinct people with a distinct history and a distinct, I mean, we actually come from somewhere and we have a reason for being who we are. That is a very firmly held belief.
Hmm.
No,
So,
look, yes, what I'm saying is, there is really an absence of any script for a porn star. A star who goes to work out in a small pornographic industry, right? There
yeah.
is an absence of script. So there is a difference between a, let us say, sex worker. A sex worker also comes out to meet his client or her client, and there's a mask. It is something which is worked out very carefully. There is a skill there. There is some sort of a technique to handle this kind of a work, right? So similarly, there is a difference there. So in case of a porn star, she's working without a script, and or he or she is getting some money for being something, and they are knowing that there's a camera behind them and they are working out something, right?
But
And in case of a sex worker, there is no camera there. So there is also some emoluments or some money is generated by the act. In both the cases, there is some sort of an act, but there's a huge difference there. There's a difference because the sex worker is like any other worker. The kind of mask which a sex worker is putting up on her or his face is also the mask which is we encounter at many various levels, in offices, in our homes, with our in our relationships, right? But when we talk about as an act, let us take about cinema also, where the person comes out with a particular kind of a skill and goes on the stage, and what happens there when the script and the body start gelling together, merging together, that is, I think, the debate. That is where we can think about how to balance this and with what is happening on ground in life. That is, I think, that can be very etymologically it can be very interesting. I don't know how.
But why do you say that the porn star doesn't have a script? I would assume that that
Very,
pornography is a very deeply scripted uh, format of content. It's very
very
deeply scripted.
initiation, you can see there. I think most we all see porn stars. Where is the script there? There is no dialogues. They simply go on the bed and start working. The camera is
No,
working. Actually,
by script I mean a specific set of directions.
no, the camera is working there, not the actors. The camera is actually the script there. Camera is creating kind of a script there. It is a camera which is moving on
No,
the
but
lens.
you can't be saying that it's genuine emotions being portrayed in pornography. I mean, it's
I didn't
obviously
say I
scripted.
didn't say genuine. Script, it is everywhere. I saw the sex. You see, scripted is in what sense? That what as a product which comes to us, that is scripted. What we see on the as a script as a product on our mobile phones or in on anywhere else in the internet also is scripted, because there's a particular industry which is directing it on a particular, the camera is put in a particular way. So the script is decided, the angle is decided by the director there, not by the porn star. So how much of the self actually merges with the act is number one. Number second thing is how much the actor actually also works out on the in the cinema also. Let us say small actor who is very good actor, but his or her role is to carry the briefcase from one end of the road to the another end of the road. So what kind of personality is actually merging there? So the nuances, the, the collective, the combination, the convergence of so many nuances make one product called film. And then again, how much we dissect in our own way and analyze that who is doing what, how to judge the actor. It is really mind-boggling to make a deep analysis of a film, because so many forces go into the making of film. Even on the stage, how many people work behind the stage? The worker, the stage, the cobbler, the carpenter who makes the stage, the designer, the makeup person, the what happens in the green room in the as a process. So everything, how much one actually, how much the audience encounters what happens on the stage actually, very little. Similarly, that happens in the sex. Let us say sex worker is somewhere working somewhere, but he or she may be having a family back home. How they are working, how they are balancing their life with what is, how much they actually hide what they are doing on the stage. That can happen even in any trade. So every kind of work is not explainable or shared
So,
with the people.
in that basically you are trying to distinguish the acts which are performed as a maybe as a compulsion or as a strategy for survival or some or as a result of a negotiation between power hierarchies, right? And the acts which are voluntary and are are done for the benefit of an audience. Yeah, right? So did I capture it correctly?
No. I see, Prayas. I think, see, acting is a skilled work, right? People go to school to learn the acting. They go through the exercises, limbs, and the sound box, and everything is done in a proper way for a couple of years. I have not been through, but I know my friends. They go vigorously through a particular training and learn the craft called acting, right? So they go there to make a living. Actually, they want to make some life out of it. It is not only the passion. One begins with a passion, but that is quite a vague thing. But the serious actors actually work it out professionally, and they know their job well, how to make money out of it. That is the ground reality of it. Very, I mean, the enthusiasm part, the what when you actually like particular profession, out of sheer love of it, is entirely different matter. Then we can talk about when someone designs or create. That's why the Joseph Beuys is saying everybody is an artist. He was actually saying that when a person, an architect or an engineer or everybody is an artist, when the person invests his or her creativity into the product, so that it crosses the threshold of what it was expected, or what the conventional parameters were there, and the person, when he crosses the creative forces actually enhance the capability of that product. The same thing happens on the stage also. It happens everywhere. But what I'm saying is that if we are talking in a very holistic, say, entire thing, the way Joseph Beuys was talking about, that the entire in anthropological, say, that every life force is a creative force. But I'm saying that to balance the debate with something, what we are talking as acting as a discipline, as a serious faculty, which enables a person to become more creative than what is available on the ground. That's what we have a project called STS Studio. In that project, at the Rux Media Collective was initiated. I was one of the mentors there. We were debating how to bring different disciplines on the same platform. Number one. Number second thing was that how to understand the city as studio. That where we can go suddenly somewhere and understand the departures which are taking place on the ground, and dig a little bit deeper on the reality, and understand how a person is beyond the visible self on the roads. That can only happen when we enter into some sort of encounters with the forces on ground. So it can happen anywhere. It can happen on stage also. It can happen in life also. But I think when we use the word actor, what limits an actor. For example, the last frame which we are talking about, the limits of what limits an actor is basically if they are confined by their spaces, by their given spaces. The moment actor crosses the line, they can experience the potential which is latently embedded in their beings.
So
So the actor,
actors are limited by familiarity, by
by by
spaces
the,
that they're familiar to.
yeah, by their Lakshman rekhas. If there's
Right,
a
right, right.
if the
Yeah,
proscenium is there, if the stage actor is there, there is limited space. The architecture
yeah.
decides most of it. So the
Right.
moment the same actor can go on the roadside and do something else, the potential of that actor will enhance. So similarly, if a cobbler is given a chance to go to New York and learn more skills, his capability will increase.
Yeah.
So so
So
the
I
so
mean
the principle.
that makes sense to me. Sam, what do you think? Satya, Malvika, do you think we can close this session with this point that we have arrived at, that what limits an actor is the familiar frame, the familiar space, and crossing that would basically extend the potential. So can we stay there and
Yeah, that makes sense. I have a few more uh, triggers from after listening to what Inder said. I was also thinking of this aspect of skill and whether the skill can be looked at as a script.
right? So can you please share those triggers so we can have them for tomorrow?
Okay, sure.
So we can. So if Sam, Satya, if you want to share any triggers, if Chetan, you want to share something, Inder, if you want to share, please feel free. Just
Sounds
email
good.
me sentences which I can, put into the design and
Yeah.
just share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Sounds
very
great.
much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for being online. We'll meet again tomorrow at 9 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Prayas. Thanks, Inder.
Bye all.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.